We are on a tightrope, like never before. We have to be very careful.
But there is continuity supporting us. That is a very important factor. If we had to start over again making mistakes and learning from them, every short lifetime would start like a newborn baby. Then the chances of finding the right way forward would be minimal.
That would be challenging. But learning from past lives is a fascinating prospect.
We can do that, because there is uncancelled memory, total continuity in the subconscious regions of our consciousness.
You are right, Irvin. But please to exchange your term subconscious regions with superconscious regions of our consciousness. Then you are immediately on the new paradigm side of science.
What is evolving on this planet is the same consciousness that is evolving throughout the universe. Here on Earth, this consciousness is moving to higher levels.
Here, and only here on Earth, is this consciousness moving to higher levels. We have no reason to suppose that the same consciousness is evolving throughout the entire universe. And we could not prove it as well. I think, never. Our Earth was just the lucky winner, on which the evolution to higher levels became possible. And our renewed solar system was also just lucky, to become the cosmic home for our unique planet full of life.
Well, that is positive, as it were. That is very positive, hopeful window on where we can go. We indeed retain certain meritorious underpinning in our psyches. I mean, you can't go to Chauvet and not imagine that we don't have some kind of blessing bestowed in us. Or as I mentioned earlier, there is the amazing case of Shanidar 4, where about 60,000 years ago, in what is today the Zagros mountain of northern Kurdistan, someone was buried by another human, and a tiara of dried flowers placed on the skull. It was an emblem that is potent with our power of conscience, of acknowledging cultural continuity between generations in a region that comprised the greatest accretion of vastly different Paleolithic and Mesolithic cultures and cultural manifestations and populations, all cohabiting the same caves and mountain deserts together for many millennia, and possibly the place of the first temple, the first church. The fact of the discovery of the tiara was subsequently debated. Some argued it might have been accidental shifts in bird droppings, seismic or drainage fluctuations carrying other species of desiccated flowers, so that the whole conscience theory is mistaken. But even if that turns out to be true, there are other aspects of the caves at Shanidar that unambiguously point to the coexistence of Neanderthal and Cro-Magnon, in other words Homo subtaxons, living side by side presumably in peace, and later, of many of the earliest indigenous spiritual traditions, manifesting their temples and sacred spaces, are all adjacent to one another and living in tolerance. Empathy in action, communities of communities.
Indigenous people are worshipping their ancestors because they know, instinctively and intuitively, that they are not just their offspring, but because they are them, lived in a former life.
And it is, I think, inherent biologically to our species, and certainly to all mammalian species, to pass along mother's milk in whatever form is realistic for a given situation. I can't think of a single mammalian species for whom nurturance is not a fundament. Among the more than 500 known species of mammals, we see that the exercise of this quality is crucial. It helps define us, not that we actually need definition. But this characteristic, widespread throughout all living beings, is amplified in some ways in mammals, and it is truly beautiful. We do have across this planet a framework for moving forward.
I do believe that there are periodic discontinuities in our bodily existence, but there is a multiphase continuity in the existence of our mind and consciousness. This insight is not new. It appeared already in the Upanishads and in other Vedic scriptures.
That's right. It appears in the cosmologies of Jain tradition, not to mention most indigenous spirituality, and their world visions.
And they all could only have taken this insight from the wisdom of the recent Atlants, the very last species of the genus Homo sapiens neanderthalensis, who gave birth to the very first species of our own genus Homo sapiens sapiens, during the recent cosmic jump of level 5, which culminated 4,720 years before Common Era.
The Australian Aborigine generosity is contagious. They are magnificent exemplars of that cultural paradigm, which is largely sustainable and ethically in touch with their environment.
They live the mystical experience. It is their lived, immediate experience.
That's right.
I am quoting towards the end of my book, an important conclusion from The Golden Bough, the masterpiece of the famous anthropologist, Sir James Frazer. He says that the so-called primitive has a deeper, more extended consciousness than modern people. It appears that there is a sense in which we modern people have forgotten wisdom we have had at the dawn of civilization. We could well ask if the advance of civilization is really a progress.
Of course, the technical advance of our civilization is already a real progress. But mentally, we are still so strongly traumatized after this recent cosmic catastrophe, that we cannot believe that we are safe now, and the gods, whoever they are, will not penalize us during the next several thousands of years, not allowing us to try to organize our common life on Earth in accordance with the recent, peaceful cultures of the regular Atlants again. The overwhelming majority of us on Earth today no longer want wars, no more competition, no more consumerism and greed and envy. In order to reach that, we only have to be courageous enough to say exactly that wish to the minority, who is interested in the present status quo. We have to say, enough is enough. And, never more with us.
All this gives me some intimation of hope. We had great debates when Paul Ehrlich and I wrote our book for the University of Chicago, Hope on Earth, A Conversation. We asked ourselves whether or not there should be a question mark following the title. In the end we said, no, let's get rid of the question mark and call it just Hope on Earth.
In such questions, we must all trust our own judgment.
I am thinking of physics. How does physics, in a general sense, provide insight for humanity? It is a big question, I realize.
It all hinges on discovering the real nature of evolution. Without evolution, there would not be different segments of reality in the world, and without assuming that they came about in the course of evolution, we could not understand how they came to be connected. But if we believe in the reality of evolution, we can explain how physical levels in the world lead to chemical, biological, biosocial, cultural, and psychological levels. Once a new level of evolution emerges, it is not reducible to the lower levels. It is not true that all the complexity in the world can be explained by complex relations among unchanging simple parts.
If evolution has consciousness-related and consciousness-explicit phases, at what point is humanity now, in terms of physics, and hence of our evolutionary movement, as defined by physics?
Thank you for this direct question, Michael. It is the crucial question in our search for the new paradigm in science. At what point is humanity now in terms of our evolutionary movement as defined by the unified physics? Let me summarize my previous comments, and my previous series of videos, Future on Friday. The bioastrophysical precondition for our Earth not only to exist, but also to make the evolution of higher forms of life on it possible, is the existence of the huge cosmic hierarchy of our solar system, extending to the boundary we are able to observe today. The biophysical precondition to develop a superbrain quanta in a single organism, is to allow this organism to grow large enough for to contain in it the brain cells, distributed over the distances of at least several centimeters, or, in other words, to build superbrain quanta with an average size of about 50 centimeters. Today, they are our guts, but they are also the bodies of blue whales, elephants, octopuses, and probably some others. But, surely for me, they were also the much larger than our own skulls of the last Atlants, our direct predecessors along the evolutionary line of our own family Homo sapiens. The practical unified scientific precondition to understand the origin, the nature, and the difference between our individual consciousness and our global consciousness is to unify our scientific definitions of our individual soul, body, and mind, with our collective, or global, creative potential, matter, and spirit, respectively. Our second urgent task as the first global civilization on Earth, next to the peaceful coexistence with all living organisms, is to try to save ourselves from the cosmic impacts, which will intensify continuously during the rest of our life on Earth as species, family, and kingdom. One of the next Chelyabinsk impactors will almost surely hit New York, London, or Berlin. Let us seriously try to prevent it. Good luck.